roll call, please.
Mr. Brooks? Mr. Brown? Mr. Bryant? Ms. Kroll? Here. Ms. Davis? Here. Mr. DeFrancesco?
Here.
Mr. Johnston?
Here.
Ms. Tyson Wright? Mr. Valesky?
Here. I'm pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Approval of the meeting minutes.
And motion for the approval of minutes. Second. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Student representatives this evening. Cambridge Springs, Audrey Bullock.
Before Audrey begins, can you hear me? I'll speak in the microphone. I usually have a loud voice. I just want, before she starts, I want you to recognize who you have in front of you. She is a first-time competitor at the Pennsylvania State Journalism Association competition. She competed at Penn State Barron, and we just found out on Monday that she is moving on to states, and she's ranked second already in the editorial comment writing, so you have expertise in your hands.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller. I'm Audrey Bullock, and I'm here to update you on what is happening in Cambridge Springs. Before we left for Christmas break, students were trying to meet our Bag 3-ton goal. It was a success as we raised 6,798 pounds of food for those in need. The seniors raised the most amount of food, with the juniors right behind them. Also, before we left for break, we hosted an assembly where teachers did a series of acts that students submitted. This was an incentive for the students based on how many showed up to the How Cool Is Your School news broadcast in November. 57% of our students attended, along with 100% of our support staff and 89% of faculty. These numbers show the dedication Cambridge Springs has to showing our school spirit. Our High Q team participated in the Scholastic Scrimmage Quiz Bowl sponsored by WQLN. Watch them in action on WQLN on January 17th, airing at 5:30 p.m. It will be shown again January 19th at 8:30 and January 22nd at 2:30. Great job to the High Q team. A new addition to our high school is the Caring Closet. The Caring Closet is available to any student in need of hygiene products, winter apparel, and other things like deodorant, hair products, soap, and toothbrushes and toothpaste. It is free to any student who makes an appointment to utilize this closet. Thank you to the teachers that worked to put the Caring Closet together. Parent-teacher conferences will be held Monday, January 16th from noon to 7:25 p.m. Second grade student Landon Kernahan from Mrs. Hardick's classroom is in the running for Artist of the Week on the Artsonia website. He is competing against students from other states in grades K through 3 for a $50 gift card. You can vote for him by going to the Artsonia website. The Artist of the Week program is a simple and fun way to remind us that every child is an artist and deserves a moment in the spotlight, according to the Artsonia website. It is the world's largest collection of student art published by teachers. Congratulations, Landon, and thank you to our elementary art teacher, Mrs. Walsh, for giving her students amazing opportunities like this one. February is Heart Health Month. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. I'm sure all of us have known someone at some point who has been affected by heart disease. To spread awareness of heart disease and strokes, the elementary school is going to have an assembly in February. Our special teachers, Mrs. Bullock, Mrs. Walsh, and Mr. Dutchcott, are going to team up to offer heart-related challenges during special time to educate students on heart health. They are collaborating with the American Heart Association for this event. The elementary PTO is hosting a family bingo night on February 24th. Doors open at 5 p.m. and bingo starts at 6 and ends at 7:30. There will be food, a basket auction, and prizes. The PTO has raised over $10,000 over the past few years that is helping us build a new playground for students. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to updating you on what is happening at Cambridge Springs next month.
As the journalism advisor, I would like to share, as Debbie did, that Saegertown High School has 7 students who qualified for PSBA states, and one of those is Jason Giacomo, a freshman who competed for the first time. Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Jace DiGiacomo, and I am here to update you on what is happening at Saegertown High School. Parent-teacher conferences will be held Monday, January 16th from noon to 7:25 p.m. Visit saegertownhs.net to sign up, or you can find the link on the PENNCREST media. Freshman Emma Kennernecht won Grand Champion Market Rabbit at the 2023 PA Farm Show. We are proud of the students who travel to the farm show each year, and we will post all results to the school's media. Seniors Luthia Sweeney, Quincy Zook, and Damon Rossi are attending the National Tooling and Machining Association NTMA Manufacturing Academy with guidance counselor Christy Mogul. They have visited High Point Tool, Sippy Historic Machine Shop, Starn Tool and Manufacturing, and Kuhn Tool and Die. Future trips include Tessie Automation, Accutech Precision Aerospace, Pinnacle Molds, and Greenleaf Corporation. The program's goal is that participants will be hired for either a full-time job or an internship as one of the companies. Students from Cambridge Springs, Maplewood, and Cache are also participating in the program. On January 21st, the SHS High Q team will compete in the Western PA U.S. History Bowl and be at Southside High School in Hookstown, PA. This tournament is a qualifier for the national competition that will be held in Washington, D.C. in April. Tune in to WQLN weekdays at 5:30 p.m. to see local quiz bowl teams, including Saegertown, Cambridge, and Maplewood, compete in 2023 Scholastic Scrimmage matches will air from January 9th to 27th. Beginning today, matches will rerun on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Sundays at 2:30 p.m. We can't tell you the final results, so you'll have to tune in to see. On January 27th, students who have applied at the Crawford Tech will attend work sessions in the shops of their choosing. They will be excited to hopefully receive acceptance letters in April. Saegertown's boys wrestling team finished second at Tool City last weekend. Sophomore Carter Beck was crowned champion at 114 pounds, while junior Porter Brooks finished second at 215 pounds. Other medalists include Travis Huya with a third, Greg Kaiser with a fifth, 3 sevenths from Gabriel Jordan, Aaron Shartle, and Logan Corner, and an 8th place from Glenn Sample. 7 student journalists from the Panther Press have qualified for the PA School Press Association State Journalism Finals to be held in March at State College. They are Brennan McWright, Newspaper News, Jace DiGiacomo, Feature Writing, Loren Edwards, Broadcast Script Writing, Nate Slee, Editorial Cartoon, Luthia Sweeney, Newspaper Photography, Kaylee Reynolds, and Elena Merchant, Literary Magazine Artwork. We wish good luck to the following students who left today for PMEA District 2 Chorus at Warren High School: Luthia Sweeney, Travis Peters, Kaylee Reynolds, and Jasmine Sample. We are excited for Saegertown students to return to music festivals this year. Thank you for your time. We look forward to updating you next month. Follow us at thepantherpress.com.
Ms. Miller.
Good evening again, PENNCREST School Board and administration, and of course, students, family members from our PENNCREST area. I introduce myself again to you. I'm Debbie Miller. I am a longtime, 32 years, teacher in English Language Arts program here at PENNCREST. Don't laugh, Mr. Brown, I saw that. And now the PAEA president. And I want to come to you tonight and I want to remind you, because I think sometimes we're losing sight, that there are great things happening in PENNCREST. You already heard tonight about the Cambridge Elementary student who's doing fantastic things in art. You heard about Audrey. If you couldn't tell, I was a little bit proud. You heard about the Saegertown students. Did you also know that recently we've had alumni coming back to our high school Penn State engineering majors and grads talking to our physics students. And you know what they're saying? They're saying, stick with it, guys, here. This is the best place to be to prepare yourself for a college, for a career. They talked about taking the hardest classes they could in high school and sometimes not doing so well. But they did it in an area that they were cared for, supported, and educated. Also, I think that we need to remember that our diamond is our small schools. It's amazing here. That is not the case everywhere. Kids have small class sizes. They have chances to do things that in other schools, my nieces and nephews have attended big, huge schools. 6 kids get to be, in the drama thing, or 5 kids get chosen for an AP course out of hundreds, where here we have so much more opportunity for them. And where does it start? We have great kids and great families. Where does it go from there? I'll tell you, it goes to the faculty. I don't know if anybody in the room, besides myself, is aware that on our PENNCREST faculty, out of about 220 teachers, we have 172 that are at master's or multiple master's degrees and above. They are experts, ladies and gentlemen, and they know their field and they know what they're doing. But you know what they're the best at? And I think we've missed this a lot lately. They're the best at caring about the kids in this community. They're the ones that see the struggles. They're the ones that support those aspiring kids when they're not sure if they can make it. And that's the best thing about our faculty. I said all that, and I just want us to focus on it, but I would be remiss if I didn't say this before I leave. We were disappointed. I came to you in December, and I said, please, let us be part of the future. Let us be part as teachers. I also encouraged you to include family members, parents, and students. Unfortunately, I've had only one board member reach back out to me. Now, I could say, we're all busy, Christmas, goodness, lots going on, or I don't know what the reason is. And maybe with a little further reflection, with a little pause right now, we could look at some of the things that maybe are on the table in front of us tonight and take that moment of pause and say, you know what? I want to do better. I want to, as a school board, use those resources, the teachers, the families, and guess who's most important that you need to hear from? The students. Yes, Audrey and the student from Saegertown, Chase, they did a great job, but you need to talk to them about the day in, day out, as well as the teachers and the parents. As stated in December, we're hoping to make a change of working together and truly, truly serving the goal, if that's the goal, of doing what's best for our kids. Reach out to us, please. Thank you.
Next we're going to have the citizen comments. So I'd like to make a comment on my own before we call the first one. We got 12 speakers listed. And our policy, our district policy limits us to 30 minutes of speaking. What are we going to do? We're going to keep time. We're going to keep track of the time because some speakers will speak less than 5 minutes. And if we go over, and if it's plenty of time to get the other speaker to speak, it'll be fine, you know. We're not going to limit. But right now, we're going to follow the sequence we have. We're going to keep track of the time. And when it exceeds 30 minutes, I'll let you know. Now, I need a volunteer from the outside the board. Ms. Edgewood, would you be willing to keep track?
No, I would prefer not to.
Okay. Then Mr. Johnson and I will keep track and do the dishes. All right, the first one is...
Objection be to the Sunshine Act.
Dan Healy.
Objection be to the Sunshine Act.
Sorry, you're not a board member, there's no objection.
I believe anybody in a public meeting at any time can raise
Mr.
an
Haley?
objection via the Sunshine Act.
What is the objection? Yeah.
I believe that since there are 12 registered speakers and they each are supposed to be allotted 5 minutes, that 30 extra minutes of speaking time during this meeting tonight is not an unreasonable accommodation, considering that everything on these people are speaking about is up for vote.
The rules are the rules, and if anybody's left, like the last meeting, we'll be speaking at the end of the business is concluded.
I would
So
also like
nobody
to
be
call
left out.
disproportionate public ability to
Please
speak.
sit down, come on, please sit down, that's it.
Solicitor, may I continue?
Hey, you address the chair. I'm the chair and I'm saying sit down. Okay? He's not even
I
a
have
board
raised
member.
a reasonable objection to the Sunshine Act.
Would you please remove
I
the
believe you're in
person?
violation of the Sunshine Act. Is that true, Solicitor? Is that true?
Then here we, no, Mr. Solicitor, you are our solicitor, not ours. Okay? Mr. Hill, please take your stand.
Would you allow me to just say what I was going to say to her? Which was
You
that,
speak to me, not to her.
which was that it is not my role, it is not my role to make adjudications
No.
of these matters.
No,
That's
I'm
all
making
I
a
was going to
adjudication,
say.
this belongs to the chair. So please sit down or be removed.
I believe you're in violation of the Sunshine Act, and I believe I'm allowed to
Please
say
remove
that.
them.
I believe I can't be removed because I want to say that.
Please remove her because she's not
I also
found.
have more to say.
The policy is very clear. If we have a disturbance,
What policy
remove
is
it.
clear?
Yeah.
The state law is clear. The Sunshine Act allows anyone at any time at a public meeting to say that they believe there's a violation of the Sunshine Act.
you're disturbing this meeting, so I'm asking you again to either sit down or leave.
I believe they're
If
disproportionate.
you have any evidence, if you want to
I'm gonna
come,
get involved with the Free Amendment and all that. You've made your objection, okay? He said no, that's gonna be the end of it. He said no, so I'm asking you to either sit down or we have to take a walk outside.
My entire objection has not been heard.
You've made the objection, okay? I'm not gonna get involved with free speech or amendments here, but now you're being on the point of, he's asked you to be orderly. You're not being orderly, so you can either sit down or we can walk outside.
Let me ask this. Let me ask this just very briefly, okay? You said that your entire objection had not been heard. Now,
Correct.
understanding that you're not going to get a ruling from me because
Correct.
that's not my role. I don't have
That's
that
fine.
authority here, okay?
Yes.
Now, please state your full objection.
Well, I said part of the objection.
Right. So what's the rest
second
of
part
it?
of the objection is that I believe that it's disproportionate, because 7 of the 12 speakers that are registered to speak had 5 minutes on Monday to speak. And the people that are, not everyone who did not have a chance to speak on Monday, or because they were not registered, may not be afforded an opportunity to speak today.
Okay, is that your full objection?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Haley?
Tell me when to start.
Hold on.
Okay. As you continue to debate and discuss policy revision, I would like to take the opportunity to thank this board for being so open-minded. The First Amendment is alive in PENNCREST. You have taken extra measures to be sure that all voices are heard. You have upheld the right of citizens to speak, and by doing so, have provided for a robust and diverse representation of opinion. During this discourse, you have heard from many who support your policies. Voters from Maplewood, from Cambridge Springs, voters from Saegertown, from Rockdale Township, Troy and Athens Townships, from Cambridge Borough, Cambridge Township, from Woodcock and Hayfield, and the Borough of Venango, all standing with your policy revisions against pervasive, vulgar child obscenity, because child obscenity is wrong. And there have been those that oppose your policies, and so now I ask you to put on your critical thinking caps. Please follow my logic and draw your own conclusions about the nature of those that support child obscenity and pervasive vulgar content. PENNCREST is a district comprised of 6 schools that contain roughly 2,500 students with a 13-to-1 student ratio according to niche.com. So roughly 200 teachers, plus or minus. So I ask you this question. How many teachers and how many librarians have come forward to voice their opinions from your 3 grade schools? The answer is none. So let's consider high schools. How many teachers, how many librarians have come forward from Maplewood? The answer is none. Okay, so let's consider Cambridge Springs. How many teachers or how many librarians have come forward to express outrage from Cambridge? The answer is none. Have there been any students from Maplewood? Have there been any students from Cambridge Springs that have come forward to express their dismay at your revisions? The answer is none. So let's progress. Let's go to Saegertown. Up to this point, there have been no students and no teachers, there have been no librarians against your policy from any of the other schools. So now we come to Saegertown. So I ask you the question, how many teachers and how many librarians have come forth to express their outrage at your proposals from Saegertown? How many, board? The answer is 1. Let me say that again. 1 teacher of all the teachers in your district, just 1. So what about students? Students from Saegertown. All students that have come here voicing their First Amendment rights have been welcomed and applauded. And I want you to know that I appreciate that. So where has all the dissent come from? These students hail from 1 school, from 1 club, and from 1 English department, taught and advised by that 1 teacher. I hope that this sheds some perspective on the actual scope and source of objection. I don't say this to detract from the importance of their voices being heard. On the contrary, I believe that all voices should be welcomed, and I sincerely thank you for that. And then there were 3 students from Saegertown who came forward last meeting to express their support for your policies and to call attention to the misinformation, coercion, and manipulation regarding a petition that was being pushed through their school. I suggest that this should be investigated. So in closing, please don't be afraid to do the right thing. Child obscenity is wrong. 1 minute?
30 seconds.
Okay. Pervasive, vulgar books are wrong. Please let me say it again. Child obscenity is wrong. It is not protected by law. In Pennsylvania, it's a crime. This is not book banning. This is not censorship. This is implementing a good policy for book selection for your district. Thank you.
Mr. McComas?
Good evening. I'm Daniel McComas, Troy Township, Maplewood School District. Got some more reading for you guys at this meeting too. Hopefully we can get through more than 3 sentences without anybody wanting to vomit this time. So I moved to a different book. This is The Bluest Eye. It's available here in Saegertown as well as Cambridge Springs High Schools. Let's see. His attentions therefore gradually settled on those humans whose bodies were least offensive, children. And since he was too diffident to confront homosexuality and little boys were insulting, scary, and stubborn, he further limited his interest to little girls. They were usually manageable and frequently seductive. His sexuality was anything but lewd. His patronage of little girls smacked of innocence and was associated with his mind with cleanliness. Yeah. Little girls are the only things I'll miss. Do you know that when I touched their sturdy little and bit them just a little, I felt I was being friendly. I didn't want to kiss their mouths or sleep in bed with them or take a bride of my own. Playful I felt and friendly. Two of them, Doreen and Sugar Babe, they'd come together. I gave them mints and money, and they'd eat ice creams with their legs spread open while I played with them. It was like a party. And there wasn't nastiness, it wasn't any filth, there wasn't any odor, there wasn't any groaning. It was just a little white laughter of little girls and me. This is the disgusting crap that people coming up here after me are going to try to defend. They're going to say it's necessary for the mental health of some kids in this school. It is not. Porn has shown, study after study, even in adults, frequent people who are big into porn have mental problems. And when you're putting this crap into the schools, we send our kids here, these parents send their kids to our schools with the full expectation that they'll be protected and cared for while they're here, and the teachers will not be putting this kind of stuff in the hands of our kids. This is wrong, it's illegal, and this is a lot milder than what I read on Monday, and it only gets worse. We've got the violent rape graphically depicted of a 12-year-old girl, who, by the way, cleans up the blood with her underwear. We've got drug overdoses, drug dealing. Oh, Peter said coming up from his knees, do you have a... I mean, come on, is this really appropriate material for kids? As young as 7th grade. 7th grade in all of PENNCREST schools, this is being handed to kids. And it's not about book banning, it's not about hating on anybody, it ain't nothing like that. It's about getting these books out of our libraries and these perverts that are giving them to our kids away from them and out of these schools. These teachers have no place here, they're social activists, and they're groomers at best. Anybody that wants to get, you can't buy a kid a pack of cigarettes until they're 21 years old because they're not mature enough. They're not responsible enough to handle a cigarette. But at 12 years old, we can give them a lot worse than what I've already read out here. A lot worse. And people are defending it. Our own staff in our schools are defending this stuff. It's disgusting. I think these people need to go. These books definitely need to go. These teachers won't stop. They've been doing it this long and getting away with it for years, apparently. This just didn't happen overnight. These books were snuck in under the nose of PENNCREST parents. Again, they never knew anything about it. Nobody ever gave any school official their permission to give their kids this kind of garbage. And we shouldn't be allowing it at all. It's completely, there's no educational value whatsoever. I mean, if you want to learn how to be a proficient pedophile or maybe a hooker or something like that, yeah, I mean, if that's your job aspiration in life, these are the books for you. Give these to kids and they'll probably be able to figure out how to be a degenerate real quick. It is just absolutely mind-boggling that anybody would try to defend giving this stuff to 7th graders. Mind-boggling. These people are pedophiles. Get them out of our schools, get them away from our children, and keep them there. And I've heard people worried about a lawsuit. It's cheaper to pay a lawyer than it is to fix a damaged child. Thank you.
I'm not going to read what I read Tuesday night. The only thing I want to add, and because we're over in time and I'm going to yield most of my time, mandated reporting. Being a bus driver, we handle kids, teachers handle kids, mandated reporting for this kind of stuff. These books and this verbiage falls under that mandated reporting. I looked up obscenity laws. Supreme Court is reviewing a case from 1972 about obscenity laws. So somebody said, we're a little PENNCREST, we shouldn't get involved, let some bigger school district. Well, it's got to start somewhere, and it's got to start with someone. And if the Supreme Court's looking at it, and you got obscenity laws and we have mandated reporting, I think every man and woman on this council knows the responsibility of a mandated reporter when a child is being abused, and this kind of text surely falls in that category. I yield the rest of my time.
Mary Frances Stainbrook.
Good evening. Well-known author C.S. Lewis stated, "The best children's literature provides profound moral lessons in a form that delights and inspires young and old alike." Many of today's writers, even bestsellers, tend to leave out all the good parts of a story. They present self-absorbed anti-heroes. Storylines are normless and morally ambiguous at the story's end. All learning is from imitation, whether in the mind or acted out. School shootings, suicide, bullying, teen sex, self-mutilation, doing away with the nuclear family, among other such themes are present in the types of books in our school libraries under consideration this evening. Can we only dare hope these themes are not imitated in real life by young learners of PENNCREST School District? We think education is something we do to children and young people, whereas it's something we do with them. They have most of the work to do. They want to know, and what they want to know is the goodness of all things. The PENNCREST School District vision statement avows to develop lifelong learners. So why are we not scholastically inculcating discerning reading habits for a lifetime? Reading habits that cultivate goodness, cultivate character, and cultivate humanity. Students are voracious in their desire to collect information. Almost everything a young person does is for the first time. Great books not only teach, enrich, inspire, and entertain. The reader can learn from them profound things beyond their personal experience. Our life is a story, so we like to read stories. The best books, many of them timeless, tell a great story. Young people have the gift of awe and wonder, which is the provocation for all deep learning. Through good books, young people can see life in a different way. Beauty, tragedy and triumph, cowardice and courage, good versus evil, coming of age, loyalty, betrayal, life and death, justice, family, power, change through and tradition. It is with great dismay on my part that our library policy must be further defined for our educators as to what the term ethical means, as well as what is considered profane and lewd for public school student consumption. Calling these types of books from the school libraries is not a matter of censorship, but of stewardship, not only of the district funds, but also our student minds, spirits, and social and academic success. Perhaps the district could provide an even more well-rounded education for our students, as a young speaker mentioned at an earlier board session, and offer the Bible as literature course in our high schools. But let's table that discussion for another time. Tonight, I'd like to finish my presentation with the tale of two wolves. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside of people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, doubt, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other wolf is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity,
30 seconds.
forgiveness, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about this for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." Thank you.
Thank you.
My eyes were open more than ever Monday night. I've known for a while from past meetings that you take what certain citizens say with a grain of salt and see other citizens' comments as fact, even without proof from credible sources and studies. It should be blatantly obvious that to you that what is happening in Central Bucks will happen here when these policies are passed and enforced. I realize that some of you may have the money to waste on lawsuits that are unwinnable, but this isn't your money. This is taxpayer money. Title IX was brought up at the last meeting. What you don't realize is that you will lose your Title IX funding by passing Policy 123. Telling a respectable lawyer who you had to take at least 7 years of full-time study, not to mention all of the cases that they've experienced between then and now, that their work in legal advice is worthless, and telling them that their job is to go over your policies without being compensated is not only inaccurate, but textbook bullying. I felt like I was back in elementary school. I've told you the facts, statistics, and how policies such as Policy 123 are affecting cisgender girls in a negative way. I let you know that the ACLU is watching you and that what is happening in Central Bucks School District will happen here if these policies are passed. However, it seems that your minds are made up. I can give you all of the research and sources, all of the explicit Bible verses, stories about how books save lives and help educate those who never learned about topics such as racism, sexism, mental illness, chronic illness, homophobia, xenophobia, sexual assault, and different forms of abuse. But would it change anything? From what I've seen since the homophobia displayed in 2021, it seems unlikely. I can't help but think if you had gone through with the diversity and inclusion training like I suggested in 2021, we might not be here. It's easy to put yourself in the shoes of someone who shares your beliefs, but there comes a time when you need to put yourself in the shoes of someone who doesn't. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it will help you to see why they're reacting the way they are. When I came out as transgender at 15, not only was I disowned by half of my family, the churches and congregations that I had known all of my life, and the youth group and summer camp that I had attended since I was old enough. I was beaten up in front of friends and peers that I met at said youth group by someone who I considered to be my friend. However, I was lucky. I have a mother who loves me unconditionally. She read so many books, religious and non-religious, to help educate herself so that she could support me to the best of her ability. She even fought for medical custody of me when my father tried to keep me from starting testosterone. Most LGBTQ youth don't have a support system. School becomes their only safe space, even when they're highly likely to be the subject of bullying, which can then make them feel alone and convince them that school isn't a safe space either. Having an outlet such as extracurriculars and books to read are great ways for them to escape the unsafe spaces for a while. Policies such as these make school more of an unsafe space, not only to LGBTQ youth, but to all minorities. Your actions are also providing an example to PENNCREST students that it's okay to discriminate, fight with people they're supposed to be working with, and rip away safe spaces from those who don't have the privilege of every space being a safe space. I'm no longer here to try to change your point of view. I'm here to be visible, to let all of the LGBTQ and minority youth and adults that are or will be affected by these bans know that I'm here for you, I'll fight like heck for you, and as cheesy as it sounds, it does get better.
Brian Weinberg. Yep, Brian, I'm sorry, yes.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Weingard from Troy Township. Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. Last time I spoke to you, I opened with a passage of scripture from Luke chapter 17. I also responded to some of the statements made by the speakers that preceded me. I'm not responding anymore. I'm speaking to the members of this board, and I wish to speak directly and plainly. If there's any real response to the claims being made by those claims I've heard in the past, and even tonight, they're secular humanists, a religion and an ideology. It's not going to be made in a 5-minute comment. It would be better for a debate. I'd like to remind you of the passage that I read to you last month, and I quote, Jesus said to his disciples, offenses will certainly come, but woe to the one through whom they come. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck, he were thrown into the sea, than for him to cause one of these little ones to stumble. Be on your guard. If your brother sins, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. And if he sins against you 7 times in a day, comes back to you 7 times saying, I repent, you must forgive him. If you recall, I offered a warning to all of you who claim the name of Christ in your own life, those of you who say you're Christians. You're responsible to heed this passage. Truly I say unto you that burdening these young students by making them aware of their oppression, or introducing them to aberrant sexual ideas, or teaching them that their skin color determines their nature, or allowing them to pretend like they are cats and putting cat litter boxes in bathrooms, and I could go on, qualifies as offense, as stumbling. If you support the actions of these types of activism, you refuse to stand upon the rock, Jesus Christ, and you continue to allow these offenses to occur within these schools, then this rebuke is for you. But repent, be forgiven, and do the right thing. You should not offend your God. I also stated that if you're not a Christian, you are still responsible to heed this passage, for the same God is in heaven, and the hearts of all are laid before him. Repent and believe in the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and confess your sins to him, and he'll be pleased to forgive you and change your heart and enable you to become obedient to the Most High God, Jesus Christ. After all, I was careful to read the entire pericope, which includes the passage on forgiveness. Seek God while he may be found. So I want to encourage the board. I want to encourage those of you who claim to be Christian, who are voting on this board tonight. Let me read from Psalm 2. It opens with this. Why do the heathen rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against his Lord and against his anointed, saying, let's break their bonds asunder and cast their cords from us. Well, I'm telling you, the heathen are raging. You've heard it. You've seen it. The psalmist does not answer this rhetorical question, but instead he points to the futility of the rage and of throwing off the bands and cords of God's law. The next lines are as follows. He that sits in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision, and speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet I have set my king on the holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said to me, you are my son. Today I have begotten thee. It goes on to speak of how the Son, Jesus Christ, will inherit and judge the nations. This Son is Jesus Christ, and you are judges of the earth. You sit in a civil government position in this room. We are becoming a heathen nation, though we once had a Christian character, as proven in the Supreme Court case, Church of the Holy Trinity versus the United States in 1892, where they declared this. And we're seeing the rod of iron shattering our nation. You have a role as defined by Romans 13. Everyone sitting on this board, everyone who's going to vote tonight is in this position. And I quote, let everyone submit to governing authorities, since there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are instituted by God. So then, the one who resists authority is oppressing God's command, Those who oppose it will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Do you want to be unafraid of the one authority? Do what is good, and you will have its approval, for it is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, because it does not carry the sword for no reason. You are those people. You are deacons of God and his servants. Stand strong, be encouraged, vote for the right thing tonight. Vote against these horrible books and bringing men into women's sports. Thank you.
Perfect.
As I sat in the last school board meeting, I heard that the lawyer who is paid to advise the district is of the opinion that policy 109.2 is not legal. This gave me more concern. This policy has been modeled after a policy that was adopted by the third richest district in the state. They are currently being sued. It is costing their school district between $640 and $940 an hour to defend this policy. Now, I'm sure that in rural PA, these fees may look different, but I have to ask, why are we passing a policy that we know is going to cost the district money to defend? I think that you have a fiscal responsibility to pass legally sound policy. The other question I ask tonight is, why are we rushing to pass a knee-jerk change to a policy based on some infographics and misinformation that are nothing more than fear-mongering? Who is determining what is and is not considered appropriate for the school library? Where is this information coming from? I looked at a few different sources for book ratings. One of the sources I looked at was viewed in the papers that have been being waved around here at these meetings. I went to booklooks.org and looked at their rating scale. At the meeting on Monday, I heard mention that several of the books on the list are rated a 4 or 5. Out of the list of 11 books, 2 are rated as a 4. These books are both books that are not classified as teen or young adult books. The rest of the books, none are rated a 5. The rest of the books on that list are rated as teen or young adult books. One of the books wasn't rated on Booklooks. 3 of the books, including Beyond Magenta, were rated a 2, and 5 are rated as a 3. Now, this rating scale indicates that books rated 2 may not be appropriate for ages 13 and under. At our junior-senior high school, during the first year that the kids are here, they're turning 13. Books rated a 3 are recommended that they be read under the guidance of a parent for those 18 and under. These books could be books that could be checked out of the library with parental permission rather than removed altogether. I attempted to find ratings for As Nature Made Him, but was not able to because this is not a book intended for young adults. According to Amazon, this book is classified as medical ethics and gender studies. The wording in policy 109.2 leaves the interpretation of what is and is not appropriate open for much debate. If we use the list of 11 books that has been held up as promoting garbage and absolute trash as the basis for removing books from our libraries, then we are really missing the mark. I'm sure that those of us on both sides of this issue can agree that there is no place for pornography in our libraries. However, we need a clearer indicator and method for deciding what that means. Any book that has been classified as young adult should truly not be considered pornographic in nature. This policy is poorly written and illegal. For that reason alone, it should be voted down. We need to try and make our decisions based on facts and not opinions. Look at the methods that already exist, such as the Miller test for making determinations, rather than vague language that is open to interpretation based on the viewpoints and opinions of adults who bring their bias and agenda to the table. And this speaks to both sides of the argument. Before I sit down, I also want to say that I know that the chairman of the board can extend the time period for speaking. An adult earlier tonight
stood up here and besmirched the name of some of the students in your district. One of those students is the last one on this list of people to talk tonight, and I think she should be able to have the opportunity to defend herself. Thank you.
One more 5 minutes.
5.
Actually, 3 minutes, but you can have the 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Ezra McClemens, and I am a left-wing radical activist. These are the only two things you are likely to take away from what is about to be said.
Can you get close to the microphone?
But truly, I am just a disgruntled student of Saegertown High School. I know you might not care that much about the education of the children in this community, because this policy change, quite truthfully, brings into question your competency to serve on the board and your true intentions of seeking and maintaining this position. Because quite frankly, I think you tend more to your political and religious beliefs than your duty on the school board to provide the best education possible for the youths in this district. But personally, as someone who is going to be graduating in approximately 5 months, I'm aware that these policies are not going to impact me or my education. However, as someone with friends and a sister in the system, and as someone who understands that the children and eventual adults that are crafted and forged in this school district will become the community after they graduate, I care about what education they will receive. I care about what they are enabled to read. I don't think many people see what young people go through or what situations they find themselves in throughout their adolescence, but they need to be able to read books that include those themes and actions. They are not alone. Others went through this and they can make it through. I was taught, albeit an exceptionally lackluster lesson, sex education in 5th grade. So why should we be restricted from reading about it afterward? No one is showing kids porn or telling them how to have sex. What is occurring in our schools, and libraries specifically, is that students are being provided the opportunity to consume media that depicts themes and acts that they may encounter or partake in, they have learned about, and are a part of everyday life for many people. This allows them to understand their peers and better explore themselves and who they might be. All this policy will do is make people feel alone and usher in more hate and misunderstanding than there already is. You are not all professionals in learning. Teachers went to college for a reason, and librarians did too. They know what they are doing. They are the experts. You are not. Not all kids have access to public libraries. They may not have a way to get there, or their parents may not let them go. And if they do have access to an out-of-school library, there is no assurance they will be allowed to get books that may help their mental health and help them understand what's happening to them. Here are some statistics. Between 2001 and 2015, self-injury increased by 166% in girls aged 10 to 14 and 62% in girls aged 15 to 19. In 2017, 17% of students in grades 9 through 12 seriously thought about suicide. 7% attempted suicide, and 2.4% had a suicide attempt that required serious medical attention. According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 53 boys under the age of 18 experience sexual abuse or assault at the hands of an adult. Females aged 16 through 19 are 4 times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. According to the CDC, about 1 in 7 children experience child abuse. 45% of the LGBTQ youth seriously consider attempting suicide in the past year. Nearly 1 in 5 transgender and non-binary youth attempted suicide. LGBTQ youth who found their school to be LGBTQ affirming reported lower rates of attempting suicide, and LGBTQ youth who live in a community that is accepting of LGBTQ people are reported significantly lower rates of attempting suicide than those who do not. According to the Gun Violence Archive, in 2022, there were 44,268 gun violence deaths. There were 648 mass shootings. 314 children aged 0 to 11 were killed by gun violence, and 1,357 teens aged 12 to 17 were killed in gun violence. There were 64 shootings, including the tag school shooting, elementary/secondary school, and excluding the tags BB pellet replica gun and brandishing, flourishing, open carry, lost, found. And there have been 22 mass shootings so far into 2023. It is only January 12th. That is almost 2 a day. These topics of mass shooting, suicide, self-harm, abuse, and sexually themed subjects have been referred to at these meetings by speakers or the policy change itself as indecent. I fail to comprehend how these are unsuitable for minors when many get thrust into real-life experiences of the exact same nature. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. we exceeded 30 minutes. The remaining 4, there's 4 left, may address the board after the conclusion of our business. Now, as far as the minutes, we usually have 2 minutes at the end. But if the board would like to override the rules, they can extend the time to 5 minutes. We'll take that issue after the business is done. Okay, next, education report.
Item A, athletic travel. Recommend approval of student athletic travel as listed.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Yeah, Bob. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion approved.
Item B, recommend approval of the economics resource to use in the U.S. government economics class at no cost to the district.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item C, recommend approval to issue a diploma to the CCCF student listed.
So moved.
May I have a motion and a second? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Facilities and Transportation Report, item A, resolved that the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approved revised Phase 3 DSA amount of $2,070,935.
So moved.
May I have a motion and a second? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item B, resolved the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approves Strongland Roofing System RM1 bid for Cambridge Springs High School roof project.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Just one question on it. The funds going towards this, how much of that is ESSERS? Is all, does ESSERS go?
All of that is the ESSERS
Okay.
money, correct.
Do you know what it is?
We've talked about that at previous meetings, I can get that amount for you.
Satisfied? Any other question or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item C, resolved the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve Omni Partners for design, construction, and oversight materials for Cambridge Springs High School roof project, the amount of $636,356.16.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item D, approve the list of student transportation drivers.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Approve the recycle, obsolete, maintenance, and custodial equipment as listed.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Any objections? Motion approved.
Item F, recommend approval of the Saegertown Elementary walk-in freezer per the attached quote.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item G, recommend approval of the Saegertown High School walk-in freezer per the attached quote.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Financial report, item A, treasurer's report, recommend approval of the attached treasurer's reports.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item B, approve the payment of the attached disbursements.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion approved.
Item C, resolve the PENNCREST Board of School Directors approve the attached June 30, 22 single audit report.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item D, recommend approval of Northwest Tri-County IU5 sub-grant contracts for 21-22 IDA pass-through grants as listed.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item E, recommend approval of contract with Burke One for the 2022 Act 80 comparison services in the amount of $775.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Item F, recommend approval of the a la carte price increase for the 22-23 school year, effective immediately.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Personnel report, I'd like to run this as a consent agenda, items A through J.
We have a motion and a second.
So moved.
We are ready.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved.
New business?
Before we go any further, I'd like to make a motion letting the last four people speak after the policy approvals. Seems how they're speaking on the policy approvals. We're going to listen to them anyhow. I say let's let them speak now before we go.
Before we vote?
Yes, we're going to listen to them anyhow.
I'll second
We
it.
got a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No objections? Good, motion approved. Register.
Speakers, we are on,
And she just walked out.
come back. Aaron Knott.
Skip her. Just, yeah.
Knott, Aaron Knott.
I saw her walk out.
Are we done?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Arian Knott. I spoke at the meeting on Monday, but this time I registered to speak about the policy 109.2. I am 16 years old. I've been in the area my whole life. My parents specifically chose PENNCREST for me and my brother's education. I spent 8.5 years at Seton Catholic School, 2 at Cambridge Springs, 1 in cyber, and now nearly 2 years at Saegertown. I've had a difficult journey due to my mental health. When I went to Cambridge, I didn't have friends. I confided in the library, book after book after book. I read until my head hurt. And I read through them until my head hurt. Now I understand that you are concerned that kids aren't reading enough or they're reading inappropriate things, and that is totally valid. You have a right to be concerned. These are the kids you swore in to protect. But the truth is, you're just reading pieces of a full story. You're reading 1 to 5 pages of a 100 to 400 page book. I read some of the books that are on the list in 7th grade, younger grades. My first instinct was, I'm gonna go have sex now. I read them and related, cried, laughed, and enjoyed reading something I related to. You can't decide a book is bad from a couple of pages. Sure, there may be cuss words here and there, but kids scream slurs and drop F-bombs in the hallway all the time. I've witnessed it. If you think we're fazed by a sex scene, do you know what a teenager looks up? If we can have a sex ed class, why can't we read about it and understand what it is? Why am I still too young to read about these topics? Why was I not too young to be raped at 4 years old, but I am at 16 too old to read about it? I'm too young to read about it. You shouldn't ban these books. None of them meet the Miller standard. Sure, some aren't appropriate. I won't deny that. But that needs to be handled on a book-by-book case. If parents are concerned about what their kid is reading, then pick up the phone. Call the librarian, call your school. Don't ban books in one foul swoop. You're upset about being censored, yet you go and censor the library. Do you not see your actions? Do you not hear yourselves? On Monday, I witnessed you bicker like you say we do. You talked over each other, you fought, you complained, and for what? for power. I'm sick of seeing people who are supposed to support and protect me and my peers argue like the immature people you claim we are. Yet, when we come together as a student group, you think we're too young to actually care about what you're doing and that we're being led by the teachers who actually support and protect us. No one told me to speak tonight. Not my parents, not my teachers, not my friends, nobody. I registered because I wanted to support my peers here fighting for the same thing I am. We all have a difference in opinion. But that doesn't mean we should fight all the time. If I have to coexist at school with people who hate my guts, then I would like to see the people who swore into this school district to not fight every single time I see you. You may have different opinions, ideologies, morals, and standards. Everyone in this room does. But I do too. I don't agree with everyone in my grade. I don't agree with all of you, or all of the people in this room. And that is okay. We don't have to be perfectly synced. We don't have to be robots, but we do have to accept our differences and work together for a better district. I don't want to spend my time in high school fighting the very people who swore in to protect and support us. And I'm sure others are sick of it as much as I am. And one last thing, I address the room. I want to remind you all one last thing. This is a public school district. I'm tired of getting the Bible quoted at me to prove I'm wrong. Prove I'm wrong. I got it screamed enough in my face growing up. Good night, and thank you for your time.
All right, am I gonna help to grab the microphone?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab the microphone. Hold on.
There we go. Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak before the vote. My name is Lorin Edwards. I'm pretty sure you guys know who I am at this point. I speak for myself. No one else. No one ever forces me to speak. No parent has ever told me, hey, you need to speak tonight. And same with staff. I speak for myself. Apparently I need to say that every time I come up here. Policy 109.2, the policy on library books censors students' access to information. And if you say it doesn't, it definitely does. If we want what is best for our students of this district, we need to continue to trust them to select the reading material they want to read. We have skilled librarians in our district who went to school and are educated on selecting library materials. You have stripped them from doing this aspect of their job in this district. During the work session held on Monday, January 9th, you allowed a speaker to disrespect your PENNCREST staff, the Panther Press, the name of a student-made petition against Policy 109.2, the policy that would restrict our library. You claim to want your students to see what you're doing. You claim to want to hear their thoughts and their opinions. We are here. We are in front of you. You have expressed students cannot think for themselves, that we are brainwashed, that we are manipulated, that somehow people are putting words into our mouths. I can tell you no one tells me what to say. I do have my own mind, just as my peers do. By saying all those things, you are admitting you are afraid of us. You are afraid we speak up. You are afraid that we are informed and are taking action against this policy and others. How many times have we had to reiterate the exact same message before you recognize that we matter? We are whom you represent. I am someone you represent. My name is Lorin Lennon Edwards, and I am not afraid of you or your policy. Good day.
Zook.
My name is Brett Zook. I'm a resident of Woodcock Township, and I have 4 children currently attending Saegertown Junior Senior High School. I'd just like to comment on Policy 109.2. and proposed revisions that are being voted on tonight. We'd all agree there's a wide spectrum of views about what type of content is appropriate for students in a public school, and even what type of material is appropriate in any context. For me, the type of content that this policy addresses is not what I would choose to read or allow my children to read, because I believe it describes behaviors that are outside of the boundaries God has given us for sexual expression, and I believe those boundaries exist for our benefit. However, I freely acknowledge that not everyone shares this understanding of things, so why would I argue in favor of a policy that restricts certain materials from people who have a different belief? And that's a valid question to consider. So I want to appeal to something that we might have some common ground on, and that is that sexual content has a unique power, I believe, to stick in our minds and deeply affect our emotions in comparison to other types of material that we might look at. I studied Calculus 1 in high school and Calc 2 and 3 in college, but sadly, if there are any calculus scholars here tonight, I'm not going to be of any help to you because I've forgotten all of that. It just didn't stick. On the other hand, I still have images in my head from movies I saw in middle school that I now realize I would have been better off not seeing. And I don't have an answer why that works that way, but I think that's the reality that we should acknowledge. And my example there was movies, but I think written words can be just as powerful. So in the case of the type of content that we're listing in the policy, a student who encounters that will have that knowledge pretty much the rest of their life, whether they want it or not, or whether or not they understand the weight of that. And so for that reason, I think it's appropriate for the board to put some boundaries in place. The point has been made that an existing policy does exist that provides a boundary, and that parents can inform librarians that they don't want their children to be looking at certain material. I think that's inadequate and impractical because it means that parents need to somehow find out that new materials are there and review all of them and communicate with librarians on a specific item each time that might happen. So to summarize, I guess I would just say I don't think the default position for explicit sexual content should just be open to anyone. Since a school library is inherently intended for use by all students, I just think it's not the right venue for that type of content. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Claire Barrickman. I was here earlier this week along with my fellow students to present you with our petition against Policy 109.2. I am here tonight to give you the rest of the signatures that we collected from our schools, as well as to address the allegations made at the end of Monday's work session. It was stated that we coerced and manipulated students into signing our petition and lied about what the petition was for. We did not do this in any way. We did not tell students that books were being banned because of racism or drug addiction or suicide. We did say that books that covered racism, drug addiction, and suicide were being banned because of scenes that were seen as inappropriate. Students signed this petition because they wanted to, not because they were forced. All students had the right not to sign this petition, just as they have the right to choose not to read any books they don't want to. It was also said that multiple students took their names off of the petition. It was 2 people. One was the sibling of the students who made these accusations, and the other was a child of a school board member. I hope this clears up any confusion about the intent or validity of this petition. I would also like to say that this petition was not just at Saegertown, that it was sent to Maplewood and Cambridge, and they just weren't here to be able to present this to you. Thank you for your time.
We're going to conclude with new business. Item A, policy approval of 122, 122.1, 123, 229, 618, and 913.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Questions?
I don't have a question, but I'm going to have a comment.
Comment?
I already mentioned on Monday night's meeting that I'm not in approval, not necessarily to vote on these tonight, but because these were not reviewed by our attorney, do we pay to ensure that we are in compliance And not that I necessarily disapprove of some of the changes made, but they weren't reviewed. That was openly said. So while I may approve maybe some of these, I can't support moving forward on this. We need to push this to our attorney to have them look at these. That is the right thing to do. That's my comment.
That's it, thank you. Any other comments? All right, if not, so let's have a roll call.
I don't have a whole lot to add, except that, I don't know what all the solicitor has looked at on these. He turned his opinion in on 2 of them, which I don't believe was appropriate, and I voiced that earlier. But everything here, I completely believe is solid content. Every revision we're doing, there's nothing that could even be questioned. It really cannot. It's solid. We're standing for truth. We're not going to wait for the big guy to fight our battles. We're going to fight them now, and we're going to teach that to the young, that we don't wait for someone with more money to come along and fight our battles, because that's not going to happen. We need to stand up, and we need to be the district to fight this all the way.
Mr. Chairman, I make a comment?
Is there any different, you comment any
Yeah,
different?
it is. I just want to ensure that the public knows that none of us are attorneys. That's
Okay.
good.
Jennifer?
Just for my own clarification, kind of in keeping with what Teresa just said, after Monday night's meeting, I went home and I read through our policies again. And I read through Robert's rules.
And how we conduct our meeting.
I guess my question is, in moving forward as a board, when we have policies, of course, I think it's a wonderful idea for the solicitor to look them over. And is that something we as a board has just always done? Or am I missing it somewhere? Is it in writing? Is that part of one of our own policies? You follow what I'm saying? It's not in a policy. That was my biggest question on Monday, walking away. I think that we hire an attorney for a reason, and I respect and I appreciate their input. Doesn't mean I'm always going to agree with what they have to say. So I just wanted that clarified. Thank you.
Anybody else? That's Brown. Mr. Brown?
Apologize, sore throat, but I am for these policies. I'm going to make that very clear. But the thing that scares me is Teresa brought it up, and I read through what the solicitor wrote the other day. Our solicitor. Excuse me. No, I'm not an attorney, and I'd just like to see a show of hands of who on this board is an attorney.
We're going to take a vote.
Well, no, you're going to let me finish. We wrote these policies, and I agree with them. I really do. It's not that I don't disagree with them. My problem is, we all sit up here, think it's going to be cool or whatever, we can pound our chest, whatever. When we get sued, who's paying for this? I'm asking a question. I'm directing right to you, Mr. President.
Not you. That question.
What are we going to do in a lawsuit? Now, if our solicitor looks at this and says, well, make this change or do this, you're good to go. Ironclad at that point. Right now, I'm a little nervous about the ironclad. I do support this. I don't want anybody to take this wrong. I am in full support of 123. 109.2 I have some questions about, but the other ones I think, I mean, we have some good policy, homeless policy and stuff, that's awesome. I think we can't do enough for that. But my personal belief is we did not have a solicitor look at these policies. Policies that impact our community, our district, the way they do. And we heard the excuse, why put them on the website, or not the website, but on the page. But the solicitor works for us. If we don't tell him they're there, or we don't notify him in a timely fashion they're there, and he finds out the Monday before the meeting, or Friday before the meeting, this is what we get. So I think this is poorly done. I think our president missed the boat on making sure it was done properly, and here we sit.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Let's proceed with a vote. Let's have a
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
I would rather break these out more. I can vote for all these, but actually, on these ones, I can vote for all. Yes.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Kroll?
No?
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. D. Francesco?
yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Valesky?
Yes.
What's the vote?
7 to 1.
Motion approved.
Policy 200 and 251.
Do we have a
Motion for this policy.
Policy 200 and 251, enrollment in the district and students experiencing homelessness.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? No, we have a motion and a second.
On 200, 251, yes.
No discussion?
No.
Well, let's proceed with a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Objections? Motion approved.
Policy approval for 109.2, library materials.
Do we have a motion?
On behalf of the committee, I make that recommendation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I have some comments I'd like to make for discussion, Mr. Chair. Okay, I wrote out some of my comments. I'm probably going to kind of divert from my written statement. I appreciate all of you here tonight. And I really do appreciate you taking the time because we are here every month and you are not. So I'm glad that you are here. As a mother of 2 students in the PENNCREST district, I am appalled at some of the reading material that's available in these libraries. Some of the stuff that has been read by some of the comments, it's pretty cringeworthy. I'm also appalled at many things on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the internet in general. It is incumbent upon every parent in this district to use policy 109.1. 109.1? That's not even, what are we talking about? There is a policy, 109.1. So I printed it. There it is. The topic of this policy is reconsideration of resource materials and how to go about writing a reconsideration of resource materials. It can be raised by any district resident or district employee who may raise objection to resource material used in the district's educational program. And of course, we have a policy that says how books are approved, and I get that that may be restrictive, but we just passed it in July of this past year. And we're revisiting it again. So I called Dr. Glasspool this week and I said, you've been here, what, 5.5 years? Something like that. How many reconsideration reports have you received in your 5 years? How many? His answer was 0. The reconsideration form is on the PENNCREST website. So instead of the public and the residents of our community putting together fact sheets that are pretty with excerpts of this, why are we not following policy 109.1 and actually writing the reconsideration request? Oh, as a mother at PENNCREST, I just wrote 7. And I emailed them to Dr. Glasspool because those are the 7 that were brought to my attention. And yes, a little bit, I'm not comfortable with that. Now, I'm not telling the school what to do with that material, but I really am not comfortable with my children reading that material just because some of the content. I did review reviews online, and the American Library Association cites many of the books that I put a reconsideration form as the most banned books on their list, like number 27, number 35. Okay, so we're on the right track here. But I guess what I'm saying is we as a district step into drama a lot. And instead of actually following the policy that's already written and doing what we're supposed to do, we put together colorful papers and we come to meetings and we comment, which is fine. That's fine. But that's not where you're going to get things done. If you want something done, then here's the form. It's right on the website. I got an extra copy. I'm pretty sure you guys can make copies too. If you're unsure of a book or you know, oh my goodness, there's a book in the library that's just, you know, there is pedophile or there's sex scenes or whatever it might be, as a parent, then let's take some action. And to Mr. Zook's point, we certainly aren't going to know all of them. But as a community, we are stronger, right? You may know something that I don't know. So please write the reconsideration form. There's no need to put a policy in place that's already there. I put 7 requests in. That's the most that we've had as a district in 5.5 years. 5.5 years, people. I'm appalled, frankly. And I appreciate all of you coming to this meeting. I appreciate both sides. But what I'm going to tell you is kindness and love and grace are 3 things that are missing. Because there are many people pointing fingers, making accusations, and that's not going to get us where we need to go. And neither is this policy. It's not going to get us where we need to go. It's just putting language in there that's going to be, how are we going to, how are we going to decide what non-approval is? How are we? Who's the deciding factor? There isn't anyone. So what I'm telling you is, as a board member, because I did get elected to this board, and I appreciate your votes, and I hope you vote for me again, I can't support this policy. Not because I want smut in our libraries, but because there is already a process in place to get certain books to be reviewed, withdrawn, restricted, whatever that may be, by the district. And that's what I have to say.
So actually on policy 109, Teresa stole a little bit of what I was going to say in my public comments, is that yes, taxpayers, parents need to take advantage of that policy and to use it. It's there for a reason. It hasn't been used like it should. But policy 109.2 digs even deeper because it prevents your taxpayer dollars from going towards that crap in the first place. You should not have to pay for that in the first place. This gets it before the parents should even have to find out their kid is reading this and write out a reconsideration form and expect the librarian to remember what books their kids can't have. This is going to cover that from the start. It's going to stop your dollars from going to that in this first place. And it is essential. This policy needs to be pushed through. It's legal, and my conscience is clear on it. If we go to court over it, so be it. Because at the end of the day, we're standing up for what's right, and we're standing up for what God has said is right and true.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make an amendment to the original motion and add as legal support for policy 109.2 in the appendix, where we always put the standing of law, to enter in PA Title 18 from the Crimes Code, Section 63.12, Section C and D, that substantiate this policy. That's the point of law from our common law. So I make a motion to add that as an amendment to the policy, which we put in here.
Your mic's not working.
Do we have a second?
I didn't
Before the discussion, we get a second.
You got it.
The motion is to include a reference of the law.
I can't hear you, no matter.
But I guess my question is, there's already a motion on the table, right? So
This is an amendment. This is an amendment.
To that motion.
I apologize.
Please direct all the question to the chair, okay?
Tim, what I said was, I would like to make an amendment to the original motion to add to the appendix of policy 109.2 at the very end where we put the point of law where we make these policies to enter in PA code, or Title 18 from the Crimes Code, section 63.12, section C and D.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second for the amendment. Before we proceed with the main motion, which will be the approval of 109.2, we need to approve the amendment or disapprove it. Now, the motion is to add to the policy in question, 109.2, to add code section 6312 C and D.
What did it say?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Title 18.
You can't just throw numbers out and want me to vote. I'm sorry. What are they?
I think solicitor has Title 18.
Can you speak up loud enough?
Probably. So you want, my understanding, Mr. Johnson, is that you're looking to add a footnote to policy 109.2
From the Crimes Code.
simply making a reference to the Crimes Code.
Yes.
Okay. And you want it to be a reference to 18 PA CSA section 6312?
Yes.
And do you think it's necessary to add specific subsections in there as opposed to referring to the statute as a whole?
Well, it may not be necessary. If we put the whole thing in, we'd be fine.
I mean, you're not putting this into the policy.
No.
You're simply making a reference to it.
In the appendix, yes.
Okay, any questions?
Am I crazy? Does everybody else just know what this says?
If you would like this, Davis, I mean, I can read it to you, but
I'm not comfortable voting,
Yeah.
but I have no idea what it says.
Can you give us a 10,000 foot view here real quick?
well, you know, and that's just it. I mean, I can.
There again, I'm not a lawyer.
I can tell you what it says. It's two pretty dense pages of single space. So,
What's it cover?
it covers sexual abuse of children. It talks about, well, the specific sections that Mr. Johnson is referring to is C, dissemination of photographs, videotapes, computer depictions, and films. That's the heading of subsection C. And then subsection D is child pornography. That's the heading of it.
That one I agree with.
Well, so it says any person who, that's subsection D is any person who intentionally views or knowingly possesses or controls any book, magazine, pamphlet, slide, photograph, film, videotape, computer depiction, or other material depicting a child under the age of 18 engaging in a prohibited sexual act or in the simulation of such act commits an offense. The one thing I will say is there's no definition of depiction in this.
Say, what does this cover?
Subsection C talks about dissemination, again, of photographs, videotapes, computer depictions, and films. It says any person who knowingly sells, distributes, delivers, disseminates, transfers, displays, or exhibits to others, or who possesses for the purpose of sale, distribution, delivery, dissemination, transfer, display, or exhibition to others, any book, magazine, pamphlet, slide, photograph, film, videotape, computer depiction, or other material depicting a child under the age of 18 engaged in a prohibited sexual act or in a simulation of such act commits an offense. So that's C, and then we already read D.
So we just cover anything that's in vote for them, or is this?
Well, that's the question.
What are we opening ourselves into?
The question becomes, what is meant by depicting?
Right.
It's not defined in the statute, and there's no case law out there that talks about specifically the written words.
I guess that's kind of my point. I didn't see where there was an actual definition to,
It's a food. If you're going to make the amendment, I would recommend making the amendment and simply including a reference to the statute as a whole, because you can't just pick out parts of the statute. You have to take it in its entirety. And the entirety here does include exceptions under subsection F, which includes, quote, for a bona fide educational, scientific, governmental, or judicial purpose, close quote. And again, there's not really case law out there that tells you what that means.
what would the motion of the amendment be? To put just
To put a footnote reference to 18 PACSA, section 6312.
Okay, so be it.
That's how I'll make my amendment then.
I had a question about that, Lily.
Was that just for the state statutes, or is that also for federal, or we wanted to put on?
This is the state statute.
Right. How about if I moved to also put the federal in there, which was, I think could actually be common ground for all of us, because that's actually the Miller test. Would be the state 18 U.S. Code 1466A. Put that on as an additional amendment.
Well, I mean, procedurally, I think that you would need to vote on the first amendment and then move for another amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And any further discussion on the amendment, the first amendment?
Are we voting for we haven't even voted for the policy yet, have we?
No, the amendment motion, no.
You're voting to put the amendment onto the policy. That's one vote. Then to put the second amendment on is another vote. Then to approve the policy is a third vote. So right now you're voting to put the PA statute on the amendment, on the policy.
It's a full move.
Is everybody clear? We could probably just do a all in favor, right?
Can we proceed with the vote on the second, on the amendment? All right.
Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Nope.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Carl?
No.
Ms. Davis? No. Mr. G. Francesco?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie? 5-3.
Motion to the amendment has been approved.
So what was the second amendment? So this is under 18 U.S., and I don't have this, Art, I don't know if you have it.
I'm going to pull it up here.
U.S. Code
18 U.S.
466A.
466A?
466A.
Before we proceed, would you please make the motion for the second amendment? Do we have a second?
Motion for a second amendment to include the federal law under 18 U.S. Code Section 1466A.
Okay. Do we have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Now we can proceed with discussion.
Who's second?
Hopefully the solicitor's going to help us.
I try. So the heading on this section of the U.S. Crimes Code is obscene visual representations of the sexual abuse of children. So a person who, in any circumstance described in subsection D, knowingly produces, distributes, receives, or possesses with intent to distribute a visual depiction of any kind, including a drawing, cartoon, sculpture, or painting, that 1A, depicts a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct, and B, is obscene, or 2, depicts an image that is or appears to be of a minor engaging in graphic bestiality, sadistic or masochistic abuse, or sexual intercourse, including genital to genital, oral genital, anal genital, or oral anal, whether between persons of the same or opposite sex, and B, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value, or attempts to conspire to do so shall be subject to the penalties provided in section 2252A(b)(1), including penalties providing for cases involving a prior conviction. Subsection B talks about additional defenses. Any person who, in circumstances described in subsection D, knowingly possesses a visual depiction of any kind, including a drawing, cartoon, or sculpture, or painting that 1, depicts a minor engaging in sexually explicit conduct, and B, is obscene, or 2, and it goes through the exact same criteria that I listed before. Non-required element of defense is contained in C. It is not a required element of any offense under the section that the minor depicted actually exists. D, circumstances. The circumstances referred to in subsections A and B is that 1, any communication involved in or made in furtherance of the offense is communicated or transported by the mail or in interstate or foreign commerce by any means, including by computer or by instrumentality of interstate or foreign commerce, is otherwise used in committing or in furtherance of the possession of the commission of the offense. Any communication involved. I can continue to read this. It goes on for quite a defense. Quite a while. Talks about affirmative defenses under E. The thing I would point out here with this one is that it is expressly visual depictions. So if you wanted to make the reference there, that's the section 18 U.S.C. 1466 capital A, obscene visual representations of the sexual abuse of children.
Now, is there case law on this one?
I haven't looked at this one. I haven't looked at this one. Again,
we don't know if this is as open as the other.
This is visual, and again, we talk about literary value, things like that. This is visual. We haven't talked about any graphic novels or things like that in the library. So I don't know that any of the books that people have talked about contain any pictures, any drawings, anything like that that would fit that visual depiction element.
Okay, I'm not really sure exactly, this is obviously very long, but there's the Miller standard. The standard, what is harmful to minors may differ from the standard applied to adults. My understanding that was under U.S. code, that particular U.S. code. Harmful materials for minors include any communication consisting of nudity, sex, or excretion that appeals to the prurient interest of minors, is patently offensive to prevailing standards in the adult community with respect to what is suitable material for minors, and lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for minors. So that language is what I'm suggesting be put on this amendment.
I don't think that language is part of the code that you cited.
Okay. All right, then maybe we need to define it, because that has been quoted, it's been actually quoted by quite a few of the people here, and so we need to get the specifics on where that is.
We're still talking about a footnote, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a footnote. You're voting on an amendment to add the footnote.
Any further discussion?
If we're discussing 2 footnotes,
Yeah, two
Does that
footnotes,
read
it's a reference.
10
Okay,
times
so I know what a footnote is. We're not that stupid.
funny, I was ready to vote on the policy, but now we're reading 2, suggesting 2 footnotes that read 20 times longer than the policy. So are we really ready to vote on that policy? is my question.
It's just a reference to the law.
Yeah, they're just references to the law, maybe to clarify what
Yeah, but you are adding stuff on our policies that we have not been able to.
Hasn't been in first
Now,
read.
the 5 of you have been able to examine this, but the rest of us haven't. So now you're wanting us to add stuff on here. Hey, you're gonna pass it anyhow, whether we like it or not, so.
It's just a reference to public law. It's not.
But you're changing the policy.
We can't change the law.
It doesn't really change policy, because policy reflects.
Time, please. One at a time, and address to the chair.
Like I said, you 5 are gonna do what you wanna do. You can add all the stuff on you want. I'm not gonna vote yes for anything added onto this policy. All right. The other thing is, nobody's defined these books. What, you guys are saying sexually explicit. What is sexually explicit? Is it a novel that it has a sex scene in it? Is that sexually explicit? Is that what we're going for? Or, I know some of the books that you're talking about, they should be out of school. I have no problem with that. I do not. I want to know where the line is.
Okay. I have another question, if I could ask the chair.
Just what are they gonna do, fire us?
Currently, I have to ask the chair. That's the procedure. So my question is based off of what Mr. Brown just said. The definition, well, I agree, there's some stuff that is absolutely wrong. Is this policy then going to say, oh, our kids can't read the Scarlet Letter? Oh, our kids can't read The Great Gatsby? Oh, we bet on, those are classic literature. And I read them in high school, and there are clearly sexual things in Gulliver's Travels. There's some sexual content. Are we banning that by putting this policy in place? Because if you read those classics.
Let me stop there, If you read the policy that was proposed, the main policy, nobody's banning anything. It's a guidance of what should be banned if it exists. If that material exists, then we can take action. If the material in the library violating the law, then we have the duty. The administration has the duty to, but nobody's banning anything. This is not the same thing that happened in Florida that we call say no to gay. No, it's not that. We're not doing that.
Well, I
The
guess.
policy doesn't, the policy number 1 doesn't mention anything about LGBTs or gays or nothing.
I wasn't talking about
Oh, and I didn't mention that. I'm not asking about that.
You're messing the whole
So let me just qualify my question.
You're missing the point. I want to know about a freaking novel.
She's not done.
Oh, I'm not done.
Well, she's not done.
I'm just getting started.
Gentlemen, you're going yourself.
So I would like to just qualify my question. I went to college and I graduated with an English degree. I read the classics, and I know that there are some scenes in some of these books that they're a little, spicy. Let's put it that way. And I'm just, number one, I hear what everybody's saying, but I just cannot understand why we're not qualifying that, and then we're adding to the policy, which policy, when we vote on it, should be complete and ready to go, not adding footnotes. And again, I'm not a teacher. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not an attorney, and I really appreciate our teachers. I do. But I'm confused about, what do we do? The policy already is here, and now we're adding. I'm confused, that's all.
Okay, I think we talked enough.
No, I got an answer.
Yes, I can't let you repeat everything you said before.
You haven't answered me. You haven't answered me. What do you have, what books is there? At the beginning, in the meeting earlier, somebody in this board said that they had hundreds of books they were gonna get out of here. What are those books?
Well, that's the first time I heard of that.
Well, that was the new one.
Well, they policy.
I want to know how many of them went after that, but I don't think there was that many books in the library that are that bad. I know there is novels. I know there are books that do kind of, they're sketchy, but they're novels. I want to make sure that we don't go over the edge on this. And I haven't heard anything out of the policy committee
or you, Mr. President, stating that somebody was going to be in charge that was capable of making those decisions. But if you don't like it, you'll overrule it. So I have a problem.
You know,
Are we done with?
most of you, yes, we're done, we're done. But my last comment I make in response to you.
Educate.
You got it. Never mind. Okay, that's it. No more discussion. We just repeating everything over.
So again, we're voting on the footnote. US 18 US 466A.
1466.
1466A.
Very
Capital
good.
A.
Okay.
So you're voting on the footnote.
Roll call. On the
You're just looking to change it to 18 USC.
Roll call.
No. Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Kroll?
No?
Ms. Davis? No. Mr. DeFrancesco?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Gillespie?
Yes.
5-3.
Second amendment has been approved. Now let's go to the main motion, the approval of 109.2, which includes the amendments.
Any discussion? Any more discussion?
Any more discussion on 109.2?
Yes, please.
I just feel a need to state how I feel because I know that I've represented several different angles on this policy in the last two meetings. I am so sad right now because I came here and I decided to vote for this policy this evening until the circus that just happened here in the last 10 minutes. We have a responsibility to do the right thing, the right way. We can stand here holier than thou and talk about doing the right thing for our students, but if we're not following our own policies and we're not following the law and we're not following the procedures, are we trading one evil for another? And that's what I'm concerned about. I am all for Policy 109. All for that policy. But it's embarrassing what just happened here 10 minutes ago. It's embarrassing. Clearly there's members of the board who are meeting on evenings when we are not all present. You're rattling numbers off that none of us even know what you're talking about. Are we all supposed to sit here and pretend that nobody's noticing that you've all kind of figured this out before you got here? Like, you're all doing the right thing, but you're doing it the wrong way. So, though I appreciate the content, and I'm sick to my stomach. I wanted this policy to go through, and it will because you've all decided that it will. But my conscience can't vote for it because of the circus that I just witnessed here. And thank goodness Jeff Brooks wasn't here tonight because then all that baloney would have been going on too. That is all this personal garbage that goes on. Like, come on, guys, we're grown-ups here. These kids are counting on us to not only do the right thing, but to do it the right way. We are not. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Well, I was going to vote on 109.2 also. I have not allowed the microphone, so I'll just speak on. I was all set, and I will vote for this, but I will not vote for this now with the shambles that just went on. I'll speak on it. Thank you, Jim. Ms. Davis, I agree with fully what she said, and I've read this 3 dozen times. It does not attack LGBT. It does not attack anybody that we want to say. But I'm not going to argue that. But there is openings in this policy that can get good books banned. If somebody's got a case of the butt about it.
Just fight that fight when it arrives.
Pardon?
Fight that fight when it is in front of you. That is not the fight in front of you now.
Please, no words from the audience.
I'm not running again. You run and you do all the fighting you want. I'm perfectly fine with that. Like I said, I'm going to defend the kids with
The level of confusion I saw in procedure tonight is an embarrassment to all of you.
Sir, Please, do not interrupt. This is a board
I
discussion.
can't hear you, so you may as well stop.
I understand your feeling, but just hold on. You done?
Okay. Doesn't matter now.
That's it? All right, well, let's vote. Let's take a vote for the the motion, the amended motion plus, which include Amendment 1 and Amendment 2. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
No.
Mr. Bryant?
Yes.
Ms. Kroll?
No.
Ms. Davis?
No, but you should all be ashamed of yourselves.
Mr. G. Francesco?
Yes.
Mr. Johnston?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Valesky?
Yes.
5-3.
Amendment motion plus the amendments have been approved.
Announcements. Board met in executive session on January 9 and 12 for personnel negotiations and litigation. We are not going to have citizens' comments on non-agenda items as we've already exceeded our 30 minutes. This brings us to board member remarks. It's just for information purposes. Board member remarks.
Board members' remarks. Let's start with Mr. Brown.
Get my throat back.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, this is another example of the PENNCREST board. Really, I'm embarrassed, as Mrs. Davis said. It is very clear that we've got 5 board members that I do think they have broke the sunshine law, because those 5, they're like spot on all the time.
I'm impressed.
But on to my remarks. I've heard many things here tonight, and let me tell you, I don't care if I agree with you or not. I commend everybody for coming up here and speaking. It takes a lot, and I appreciate it. I've heard some things against Christianity, which, hey, that's cool, I understand. I am a Christian. I'm not ashamed of it, and I will profess that. Lost my thought. The Bible is very descriptive of acts that were performed throughout the ages, including acts of violence, sex, innuendo, and other forms of rather disgusting acts of aggression and violence. Now, saying that, there was always God speaking out against that sin that man has so fallen in with and continues to do so. One person can show me how some of these books, there again, I have a promise to this, but some of those books that I heard excerpts from, I don't see how that is an educational piece of literature. I do understand, that's wrong, I don't understand, I can't understand. But for some of you, reading those books that helped you through something, that may be great, but there are other ways. We have 2,600 students in this school. We have to think of all 2,600 of them. It may only affect a few of you, but there's 2,600 that we have to think of in a whole. We will not make decisions that are best for all of you at all times, but we have to make decisions what's best for the majority of you. Come on, guys. I wasn't rude with you. I appreciate you saying thank you. I do enjoy listening to, I'm just going to stop right there. It's just going to go downhill. I do want to make one note. Somebody said something about 44,000 gun deaths. Just remember, over half of them were suicides. They don't count that. But on the good news, I will say Cambridge High School has started their caring closet. Many others in our district are doing great things. I'd like to forget all this nonsense for just 2 seconds and say to all our teachers, you guys work very hard. I know what you do. I'm married to a teacher. I see the hours they were put in, and I haven't said it enough, but thank you very, very much. The dedication, the teachers I see in the stores buying stuff for their students, with their money, they don't ask for a damn thing. This board cuts their budget, they still come through, they get the materials they need for the classrooms. You go above and beyond. I will not agree with everything that you all do. I don't want to, so I'm scared. But I want to say thank you. I do not believe there's any pedophiles, and I heard one gentleman say some pretty nasty things. I'm not saying we haven't had some bad eggs, but majority of our teachers are awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you for everything you do. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I've had a moment to collect my thoughts, and I do have something to say. I've left a number of the board meetings, probably the last 5 or 6, and I've written my resignation letter in my head on my way home. Because I'm not a quitter, and I've truly dedicated to the students in this district, I threw those letters out. You pushed me over the edge tonight. I'm done. I want to thank every single teacher in our district. I appreciate all the effort that everybody has put in here, but this board has made it impossible for me to sit here in good conscience anymore. I have a strong desire to serve my God. I have a strong desire to do what's right, to teach my children to do what's right. But I also believe that that also includes following the laws and to do it in a proper way. I'm not saying that things don't need to be changed, they do. But lying and manipulating and changing the truth isn't getting it done the proper way. And I can't sit here and have this push and pull at every meeting, losing sleep, frustrated, spending hours upon hours reading policy that's just going to be changed and thrown up in the air in this embarrassment. So I will put it into writing tomorrow. Thank you again for all your time, but I'm done.
Thank you for your service.
I'd like to congratulate Ms. Bullock and Mr. DiGiacomo and the other students that got some high honors with their academics with the journalism class. Congratulated. Next week I get to go to the Voc Tech and see the students that got onto the National Honor Society. And last year we had quite a few of them from our schools, and that was pretty awesome. I'd like to thank all of our sports people that have done good this past winter season, and you're to be congratulated as well.
Mr. Velazquez?
First, I'd like to welcome Fred Bryant officially to the board, and looking forward to serving with you and the things that you can bring to the board here. Secondly, I'd like to address the claim that there's been any type of meeting that would violate the Sunshine Act among board members with the policy committee, anything. There's been a policy committee meeting and there's been public meetings. There's no violation of the Sunshine Act. I didn't know that they were going to bring these forth today, but I trust them both. They've come into this in the last 2 months, and they have a lot of wisdom, and I believe that they're adding to the policy in a good way. The footnotes, I believe, are good. It's good to represent the laws at the bottom of our policies, so I trust them in that. And I also, just again, am supporting this policy, and I hope that administration will follow through and make sure this is implemented in our schools.
Good evening. I think the microphone is on. Shall we test it? It is with great disappointment that I'm going to make my school board comments tonight. Our children are watching on full display the rude and unprofessional behavior of the school board. And let me be clear, I'm not offended if you disagree with me. We must disagree in a professional manner, and we must hold ourselves accountable. We must offer grace, kindness to one another. Having a different point of view is not wrong. But what is wrong is how this board treats each other. What is wrong is how the board makes condescending and rude comments to each other, to its solicitor, to the legal advice and opinions of the students, the teachers, the other board members. What is wrong is making offhand comments about the district, about the teachers. We must learn to disagree in a professional manner. The gavel cannot silence opposing opinions. The gavel cannot silence the students, the teachers, the parents, the administrators, or the school board members. I implore my fellow board members to offer grace to one another, to offer kindness, to listen. I too am a Christian. Our Creator made us with 2 ears, 1 mouth. Let's be sure to listen to each other in a respectful and loving manner. And when we disagree with one another, that's okay. But what is not okay is being rude, condescending, and unkind. It's just not right. The example we're setting for our students and our teachers, it's despicable. We would not permit this behavior of our teachers in front of our students in a classroom, yet we sit here and do it to each other. Each person sitting here tonight needs to be professional and courteous, and we do that in our places of employment. I'm pretty sure of it. Otherwise, we'd have reprimands on our records. The behaviors demonstrated by this school board are deserving of disciplinary action. My career for the past 20 years has been in human resources. And as an HR director, I kind of feel guilty for not issuing reprimands to all of us for behaviors, for comments, for unprofessionalism displayed at Monday night's meeting and tonight. The room was, on Monday night, and is currently filled with students, with parents, with teachers, and citizens with legitimate concerns for our district and our kids. And this board is out of bounds. We've been out of bounds. We definitely should not permit our teachers and administrators to act in this unprofessional manner. Absolutely not. And the kindness does start here with us. But please do not mistake my kindness for weakness. So let me state to everybody here that's listening, next year is an election year. There are 9 school board members here, 9. 7 of these seats are up for re-election next year. If you are 18 years old and you're a citizen of this district, you qualify. You qualify to run for a school board seat. So if you're tired of the dysfunction, of the embarrassment, what Mrs. Davis said, you know, we don't have it together. Obviously, you've seen that on full display here tonight. Then we need you. The ballot box is where you make the changes. We need concerned and professional citizens. Parents, we need you. I'm a parent. I work full-time. I've got 2 kids. And guess what? We get a great salary, too, just so you know. It's a whole whopping $0. I did ask for a 20% raise, but, you know, those of you that are good at math, 20% of 0, it's pretty much still 0. So I'm doing it for the kids. I'm doing it for the district. But we do need you. We can't make changes with a dysfunctional system. We can't. It's not going to happen. Everyone here in the room has a legitimate opinion, and I appreciate you being here to tell us your opinion. And while I may not agree with you, I will not make fun of you. I will not condescend to you. I'm going to listen to you. And I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, because that's important. Many board meetings that we hold, no one else is in the room because there's not a hot topic. No one else is here, it's just the board. And I really appreciate this room being filled tonight. But what I would like to say also, again, just backnoting on our policy that was passed tonight, the state and federal statutes, if it was very important to put them on a footnote, then the publishers and authors probably already would have been prosecuted. Just putting that out there too. Because if that's the case, then I'm pretty sure the authors of those books, if that fell under those state statutes and federal statutes, there would have been some sort of criminal prosecution, but there hasn't been. So I'm very disappointed in the behavior of this board, the dysfunction of this board, but I am not resigning. You elected me to a 4-year seat, and I'm going to do it. And I will rerun okay? And I appreciate the teachers, I appreciate you students, please don't give up. You know, one of the things that I had a conversation with my kids, and one of the things I want to make sure that you guys understand, and the board, my kids aren't going to remember the Monday meetings that their mom attended. You know what they're going to remember? They're going to remember the dysfunction and the circus display up here. And that's unfortunate.
All right. I appreciate you speaking. And you mentioned that you don't want to insult the audience. Please stop insulting the board. Okay?
Unfortunately, it is my turn to make comments, Mr. President, and I'm allowed to make comments.
Whoa. You can't do that. Gee, you can't tell a board member when to stop.
Oh, I can.
No, you can't. Who the hell do you think you are?
Once again, dysfunctional display. Have a great evening.
Well, I agree with Teresa that this has been a very messy process, and I think we've all learned a lot, and I hope we can take that for the future. The challenge, I would encourage, like she said, for parents to get involved and complete these reconsideration forms. The problem is those books should have never been there in the first place. Some of them are against the law for minors to have in their possession. There's a difference between advocacy and information. There's a difference between literature and pornography. There's a difference between legal and illegal. There's a difference between adults and minors. And there's no question some of the readings we've heard tonight would be illegal pornography for minors to have. We've all taken an oath to uphold the law. We have literature in the libraries that is illegal and should not be in the possession of minors. And it is a 7-year prison sentence for breaking the law. So we have a responsibility to make sure that the law is upheld. Thank you.
Oh, I don't have a whole lot more to add to that. I was actually quite pleased when I saw at the back of the petition the letter there that actually was talking about the Miller test, and that was one of the reasons I thought maybe we could find some common ground and add that at the end of this policy, because it's basically what I feel like the policy is a summation of, are those laws. I'm on the policy committee, I read those. When I looked at the policy, it looked like it was a summation of those, but in case there was any questions or confusion about that, that's why I suggested to put that on the end of that. I know I've been on the other end before and have come up and spoke about different things, and so I wanted to answer a question that a student had at the last meeting. There was a complaint regarding the musical instruments at Saegertown High School, and I just wanted to let you know that that was addressed months ago, as I personally witnessed Dr. Glasspool tell the music teacher to make a list of instruments needed, and he would make sure she received them. Dr. Glasspool is a man of his word, providing $13,000 worth of musical instruments and $1,000 in music. So I wanted to clarify that. And one more question about that I wanted to mention is the word explicit. And I know that sometimes you think, well, what does explicit really mean? But I looked it up, of course, when looking at the policy, and it says, because I also really love a lot of books. I love Les Mis. It's like one of my favorite books ever, and I'm like, okay, there's that scene in there. But what it is not is explicit. And many of those classics are not explicit. Explicit meaning fully and clearly expressed, and this is the key part, leaving nothing implied. Okay, so that's the definition of an explicit. And so anyway, that's all I have to say, and I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you. My turn. Well, I do have all the little written comments that I'd like to make. In this last week, this board has eagerly received public comments. I feel it necessary to commend all the voices that have been heard here and offer assurance that this district stands for equity, Matter of fact, we did pass a resolution about treating everybody equally, not without any preference about anybody. Inclusion and diversity of thought. The district stands for equity, inclusion, and diversity of thought. Parents have entrusted their children to PENNCREST School District, and the board is responsible, in my opinion, that the district pursue their expectation of a good basic education so that their children, once adult, can cope with the demands placed on them by their own family, workstations, and society as a whole. The board should stand always against bullying and indoctrination, and against any form of intimidation of any group. We are a community of learning only, one that is tolerant and protective of the rights of our students. The policy provisions passed today do not change the board commitment to these principles. There is knowledge that there are books in our libraries that are inconsistent with our educational goals, and the policy is revised. Should provide a suitable framework for selection criteria in the future. We have been asked and told that we can do better. And this is our commitment to every parent, to every student, and to every stakeholder. I am confident that the board will maintain a warm and welcoming learning environment that will support and empower all to become confident, lifelong learners. As far as the unfortunate comments made by a board member about the board, I'm not going to comment on that because, you know, my parents always told me that dirty linens, they should be taken care of at home, if that's what they believe. And I might have to ask the administration and the board in the next meeting, it appears to me that we need again to have a lesson about parliamentary procedures and duties of the board. And that's all, because like I say, I don't want to make any further comments on some comments that I don't think were accurate. Thank you for coming all, and it was very informative. Now, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.